A lot of people in America have not given up on love, and have not given up on love. They are giving up on the process that is supposed to lead to it. That is the feeling this video is about. Because when people talk about modern dating now, the word you hear over and over is not excitement. It is not butterflies. It is not possibility. It is exhaustion. Because exhaustion is a very specific kind of emotional signal. It does not mean people stopped caring. It usually means they cared for too long inside a system that kept draining them. That is what dating increasingly feels like for a lot of Americans now. Not romantic, but draining. Not hopeful, but effortful. Not like a path toward connection, but like a recurring admin task that asks for time, money, vulnerability, optimism, scheduling, self-presentation, and emotional resilience. All before you have any reason to believe it will go anywhere. Or 770p. All before you have any reason to believe it will go anywhere. That is the first distinction we need to make. Because the easy, lazy version of this story is that people became shallow, commitment phobic, overly picky, too online, too damaged, too feminist, too masculine, too paranoid, too spoiled, too whatever. But that explanation is too convenient. It turns a widespread pattern into a morality play. And when millions of people across different backgrounds keep describing the same emotional texture, burnout, dread, low trust, constant ambiguity, then something bigger is happening than individual weakness. A lot of Americans still want the same basic things they always wanted. Someone safe, someone real, someone they can relax around, someone they can build a life with. What changed is the process around those desires. The process got heavier, more performative, more uncertain, more repetitive, more exposed to rejection, ambiguity, ghosting, comparison, logistics, cost, and emotional overthinking. So now, even before a relationship begins, people feel tired. They feel like the route toward intimacy has become a second job with unstable pay. And that is why the emotional tone matters so much. Because if dating mostly felt disappointing, people would complain and keep going. If it mostly felt heartbreaking, at least heartbreak would imply something real almost happened. But exhaustion is different. Exhaustion means the process itself is wearing people down before romance has a chance to exist. That is why so many people can say, at the same time, that they want connection and also cannot bring themselves to keep dating the way modern life currently asks them to. So what exactly made dating feel less like romance and more like depletion? Part of the answer is that modern dating no longer feels like one emotional risk. It feels like a chain of small, exhausting risks. And each one, by itself, sounds manageable. That is why the full pattern is easy to miss. Download the app, make a profile, choose photos that look attractive but not try hard. Write a bio that feels warm but not embarrassing. Sort through people quickly enough to keep up, but carefully enough not to miss someone decent. Start conversations with strangers who may vanish. Try to sound interesting but not rehearsed. Try to sound honest but not too intense. Try to stay open without looking naive. Try not to invest too much too soon. Try not to seem emotionally unavailable either. Then maybe a date gets scheduled. Now there is timing, location, travel, cost, safety, energy after work, how much to reveal, how much to ask, how to read chemistry, how to tell if someone is serious, how to tell if they are dating 6 other people, how to tell if you are being evaluated as a person or scanned like an option. And then even if the date goes fine, there is still the strange ambiguity afterward. Do you text tonight, tomorrow? Were they polite or interested? Were you warm or too much? Did they like you or just not dislike you? Are they busy or fading? Are they cautious or already gone? That is a lot of emotional processing for one ordinary first date. Now multiply that by months, sometimes years, that is where the fatigue begins to make sense. Because a lot of people are not experiencing dating as one clean romantic journey. They are experiencing it as repeated startup costs. Every new person requires the same opening labor, the same introductions, the same life summary, the same careful disclosures, the same calibrated hope, the same question sitting quietly underneath the whole thing. Is this real, or is this going nowhere too? That repetition changes the emotional atmosphere. It makes dating feel less like discovery and more like re-entering a process that has already consumed a lot of energy and often returned very little. And the technology layer intensifies that. Because app-based dating did not just increase access. It changed the rhythm of connection. When people meet through a screen first, they often encounter each other inside a marketplace logic before they encounter each other as human beings. Profiles, filters, sorting, ranking, response windows, perceived abundance, disposable conversations. The constant suggestion that another option may be one swipe away. That does not make romance impossible, but it does make dating feel strangely consumerized. People start trying to stay emotionally protected in an environment that constantly encourages quick judgments and low attachment. And once enough people adapt that way, everyone feels the effect. People get more guarded because they have been disappointed. And that guardedness makes them harder to read. Harder to read means lower trust. Lower trust creates more ambiguity. Ambiguity creates more overthinking. Overthinking makes the whole process more tiring. That is the loop. It is not just apps. It is not just ghosting. It is not just people being flaky. It is the way all these things combine into an atmosphere where very few interactions feel emotionally settled enough to let romance breathe. Which means the problem is not simply that dating is hard. Dating has always been hard. The problem is that now the hard part often arrives before the romantic part. And once that happens, the emotional cost moves deeper than inconvenience. It starts changing how people feel inside themselves. Because repeated dating exhaustion does not just waste evenings. It reshapes trust, confidence, vulnerability, and self-perception. If you open up and get ghosted enough times, you become more careful. If you keep getting mixed signals, you become more analytical. If conversations keep dying for no clear reason, you start second-guessing your own tone, your own face, your own timing, your own standards, your own read of people. If dates feel pleasant but never turn into momentum, you start wondering whether the whole process is secretly measuring some trait you do not have. That is when the fatigue becomes personal. Not because it is your fault, but because intimate disappointment always lands close to identity. A hard week at work can make you feel stressed. A draining run of dating can make you feel undesirable, misread, too much, not enough, invisible, unsafe, or simply tired of presenting yourself over and over to people who may never see the real you anyway. And one of the ugliest parts of modern dating fatigue is how much invisible emotional labor it requires. You are not just showing up, you are managing your expectations, managing your hope, managing your caution, managing your safety, managing your appearance, managing your calendar, managing your disappointment so it does not harden into bitterness, managing your optimism so it does not turn you into an easy target. That is a lot, especially in a society where people are already overwhelmed by work stress, money stress, screen fatigue, loneliness, unstable schedules, rising costs, and a general sense that everyday life already takes too much effort. So dating does not happen in isolation. It lands on top of pre-existing exhaustion. And that is a huge part of the story. A lot of people are trying to date while already underhydrated emotionally, weighted emotionally. They are already stretched, already tired, already cautious, already trying to recover from work, bills, family strain, social comparison, or previous heartbreak. Then dating asks them to be charming. available, emotionally intelligent, confident, sexually calibrated, and resilient on demand. No wonder it feels like performance. No wonder it feels expensive. And the expense is not only emotional. Dating in America can be materially tiring too. Drinks cost money, dinner costs money, transportation costs money, outfits cost money, beauty labor costs money, gym labor costs money, time away from side work or rest costs money. Even the wrong date has a price. So now the process is asking for scarce resources on every level. Time, attention, optimism, money, safety calculations, recovery time afterward, word. That is why so many people describe dating less like adventure and more like attrition. Because attrition is what it feels like when every attempt takes something out of you, even when nothing dramatic goes wrong. People are not tired of love, they are tired of auditioning for it. That line matters because it gets at the humiliation buried inside the fatigue. Romance is supposed to involve mutual unfolding, but a lot of modern dating feels like extended evaluation under unstable conditions. Am I attractive enough? Interesting enough? Relaxed enough? Ambitious enough? Healed enough? Masculine enough? Feminine enough? Funny enough? Texting correctly enough? Detached enough to seem cool, but warm enough to seem sincere. That kind of environment does not just produce rejection. It produces self-surveillance, and self-surveillance is exhausting. You cannot relax into chemistry when part of your brain is busy monitoring how you are being processed, which means the process does not only fail to create connection sometimes, it can actively make people less capable of feeling romantic while they are inside it. But the deepest reason this feels so bad is that dating exhaustion is not only about dating. It is about what dating now reveals about the broader emotional climate of American life. Romance needs a certain amount of slack to happen. Not perfection, not wealth, just some margin, some trust, some time, some softness, some belief that another person is not automatically a threat, a scam, a burden, or a trap, and a lot of those conditions have weakened. Now, people move more, community is thinner, schedules are harsher. Work follows people home. Phones keep everyone half distracted. Housing instability delays adulthood. Money stress turns long-term choices into logistical stress tests. Gender expectations are changing faster than people know how to communicate about them. Social scripts are weaker. Trust is lower. Loneliness is higher. Attention spans are shredded. Then we ask romance to appear on command inside that environment. That is a serious mismatch, because romance is not just attraction. It is a feeling of presence, possibility, curiosity, ease, and emotional safety. But the modern dating environment often trains the opposite: hypervigilance, defensiveness, ambiguity, low-grade suspicion, fear of wasting time, fear of being used, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of choosing wrong, fear of trusting too soon. So even good people walk into dating carrying a nervous system that has already learned to brace. And when two braced people try to create intimacy together, the result is often not drama. It is depletion. That is why the blame-based versions of this conversation miss the point. Yes, some people are selfish. Yes, some people are unserious. Yes, some people behave badly. That has always been true. But the scale of the exhaustion tells you this is not just about a few bad actors. It is structural. A lot of decent people are trying to find connection inside systems that make sincerity costly and ambiguity cheap. The problem is not that Americans suddenly forgot how to love. The problem is that the process around love has become structurally draining. That is the hinge. A lot of individual behavior starts looking less mysterious. Why do people disappear? Sometimes because endless choice makes each option feel less weighty. Why are people guarded? Because trust has become expensive. Why are first dates flatter? Because many people are already emotionally overclocked before they arrive. Why does everyone seem both lonely and unavailable? Because the same environment that increases the need for connection also reduces the energy required to pursue it well. That contradiction is brutal. People are hungry for intimacy and depleted by the path toward it. They want to be met, but they are tired of exposure. They want closeness, but they do not want one more draining, almost connection. They want romance, but the system keeps training them to optimize, filter, hedge, and brace. And romance does not grow well in a posture of constant bracing. So what are people actually mourning when they say dating feels exhausting now? Not just bad dates, not just flaky behavior, not just apps. They are mourning the feeling that romance is supposed to contain some magic, some warmth, some lift, and that the road toward it now often feels like paperwork for the soul. They are mourning spontaneity, ease, momentum, trust. The sense that meeting someone could feel expanding instead of depleting. The sense that vulnerability might lead somewhere instead of becoming another lesson in emotional risk management. And that is why this conversation matters beyond dating itself. Because when a culture makes intimacy feel this tiring, the damage spreads outward. People delay commitment. They delay family formation. They retreat into work. They numb out on screens. They protect themselves with irony. They stop trying for a while. Sometimes they stop believing the process has anything humane left to offer. That does not mean love is dead. It means the road to it has become punishing enough that many people cannot stay on it continuously without burning out. And if you have felt that, if you have felt yourself becoming more tired than hopeful, more guarded than curious, more drained than excited, that does not automatically mean you are broken or cynical or incapable of intimacy. It may mean you are having a sane reaction to a dating culture that extracts a lot of energy before it gives much back. That validation matters, because once people feel ashamed of their fatigue, they start misreading the wound. They think, maybe I am too picky. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am too old for this. Maybe I missed my chance. Maybe I am just bad at modern relationships. Maybe, but very often the clearer answer is simpler. You are tired because the process is tiring. You are wary because the environment taught you to be. You are discouraged because repeated high effort, low clarity interaction discourages people. That is not personal failure. That is emotional wear.